And sometimes it's also just about like different cool braiding techniques. And different people braid challah differently. Different people have different toppings. So I'm going to turn it over to Joy in a minute, who's an excellent challah baker, and she has a famous 4-strand. And I tried a 4-strand last week, Joy. I didn't like how it worked out, so I'm very excited to learn.
I feel like it's the easiest one.
And I have in front of me a 3-strand and a 6-strand. Just a few challah tips that I found. I prefer to use a knife when I'm cutting it, so do I avoid touching the dough as much as possible. The more that you touch the dough, the more, exactly, me and Joy are like here. The more that you touch the dough, oftentimes the more that the dough collapses. And the other thing I just wanted to point out, sorry, you're in the middle of doing some parsha cookies here, is that, different people, we offered for people to make different types of dough. So some people made 5 pounds of dough, and maybe some people just did a smaller batch of dough. I know that sometimes people get overwhelmed by the idea of making challah because they feel like they have to make the 5 pounds because they want to make the bracha on it, which is so admirable, but sometimes 5 pounds is overwhelming. If you did 5 pounds, make sure to take a piece of challah out and make a bracha. If you did not do 5 pounds, and I'm looking at the fact that I have two things together, interesting, then there seems to be a machloket about whether or not you actually remove dough. Some people do and some people don't. So whether you remove dough with the bracha or remove dough without a bracha. Let's take some off here. And now I'm going to turn it over to Joy for a 4 braid. Joy?
Okay, so I left one piece. Oh wait, I'm doing, I have 2 cameras set up. So one that's like facing down onto the table and then one that's my face. So I left one piece that I didn't roll out just to show you guys that I like to roll it starting from the center and roll it out. And like Sarah said, the best thing for challah dough is not to overwork it. So if you're finding that it's like snapping back, you just kind of let it rest. And then you saw how easy that was able to just roll out and it's not like snapping back together. So now I have 4. So this is like really like a basket weave and it's so easy to do. That's sort of how it became the Joy of Cakes signature. So what you're going to do is you're going to put 2 parallel to each other. And then you're going to take one, you're going to put it over the first strand and under the second one. And then the second one, you're going to do opposite. So you're going to go over the bottom one, but under the top one. And then it's super simple. You just cross each 2 over. When you get back to where you started, you go the opposite direction. And then you cross these. And then we're back here. And you sort of keep going until you run out of like strands to do. So I think I could even get one more in. And I might even be able to get one last one. Okay, then I like to pinch each 4 together and you tuck it under. And I like sort of, I want to show you how it's done. I like stick my hands in and I try and make it as round as possible. And that's the whole 4 strands. And then I prepared some more just to show you with that same, it's like the same technique. So it's also like really like a 4, but you're going to use 8 strands. So you'll have 2. It just makes it look prettier. It's really the same. It's the same technique, but each part of it will have 2 next to each other. So it gives it like a little bit of added texture. Sorry, I'm just grabbing the last 2. So again, it's like a basket weave. So you go over, under. And then this time you're going to take 2 at a time and go over each other. And you work the other way. Oh, I lost one there. There we go. I think I'm going to get less in this one because And then you tuck it all under. See, and then you have the extra strand, so it's like prettier when you bake it. There's like just more to it. So that's what I got for you. Sarah, back to you.
Okay, Layla's in the middle of doing a 3 braid here.
I'm struggling.
She's not struggling. She's doing a beautiful job. This is a whole wheat dough, and I think that the whole wheat dough sometimes a little more complicated.
Can we get a circle?
No, leave it straight. I think she did a great job. She said she was struggling, but if you look at it, she kind of like tightens it up. And my mom always taught me a good challah baking technique is to kind of like scrunch it up together so it like allows it and encourages it to rise a little bit. I'm putting that aside. I'm actually gonna show a 6 braid. Growing up, my mom always did 6 braids. And I kind of like always watched her in mystery. And she always followed, I think it was like spice and something. I can't remember now the name of the cookbook. And they had like a beautiful diagram for a 6 braid. I think it's personal preference. If you like your challahs very long, or if you like them to be a little bit thicker, it's going to probably be a little bit shorter. Thank you, Layla.
What can I do?
Yeah, you do these 3. I need 6. I'm working on 4. 1 second. Give us a minute.
Can I do half a week?
Yeah, you can. Here, honey. Okay, give me a second here.
Apparently the book is called Lubavitch Spice and Spirit.
Yes, that's
Thank
what it
you,
is.
Beth.
Lubavitch Spice and Spirit. Thank you.
Wait, Joy, I have a quick question for you. So when you do the basket weave, it's always around.
Yes, it always stays around challah. So it happened to be that the first time I was selling challahs, I think it was like Rosh Hashanah time. So I was intentionally making rounds. And then it became like my Joy of Cake signature because it was so easy, so quick. And mostly I actually stuffed my challahs, and I liked that it had an extra strand to stuff as opposed to doing a 3 strands braid. So
I'm gonna do the 6, but then I think we should talk about how to stuff, because I recently stuffed for Rosh Hashanah, and it's such an easy, like, I think it's an extra step, but it's like very fun for people to be able to do. So for the 3 braid, I cross my one all the way over here, and then I bring the other one that's on the end down the middle, and then you follow it along, but you're always bringing the guy hanging out at the end down the middle. And I personally find that you want to bring it all the way up so it creates a nice crown, my mom would always say. Otherwise, it starts to look a little bit saggy. And to just kind of go until you get to the end. And you don't have to do all the way to the bitter end. And again, kind of like that rise and tuck. And it just gives it, I don't actually necessarily, if you compare them to like, let's say the 3 braid, I think the difference is more just from like the perspective that it looks a little more full by comparison to the 6 braid. When I stuff my challah, people, I enjoy, what do you do? But when I stuff my challah, I usually take a 3, I roll it out flat, and sometimes I'll like saute in advance. So one time I did like bacon meat with onions and like maple syrup, and then stuffed that inside the, like I would flatten a challah, and then instead of rolling it, kind of flatten it out with a rolling pin and then fold it over. And then sometimes I did all 3, or sometimes it was like too much to do all 3. So I just did, let's say 1 or 2. I don't, like for Rosh Hashanah, I did like apples and dates kind of sauteed first. I've never done so many raw. What about you?
So for Rosh Hashanah, I actually do raw apples. I do all different things. I do like pulled brisket inside. I do a lot of garlic confit with olives. I do a s'mores one. I do a lotus cookie butter one. I don't know. I do like a ton. Like that's like my whole thing is like stuffing challahs. I felt like people don't really need like my plain challahs. I mean, some people actually ask me to do plain, but like in order to be different, that's what I did. So like I've done a lahmacun stuffed one.
That's fun.
I think we even did sloppy joes. Yeah, I don't know. You could just have fun, like whatever you can think about. You just roll it flat, you put it down the middle and roll it up. I do it in all 4 of the braids.
You do.
Yeah, especially the brisket one. That one, then it becomes like a sandwich. People like, some people buy it to eat it like as their appetizer for their like Shabbos meal or Oriental meal. They'll like cut it up as the appetizer.
Just one second, I'm gonna get pins. I just, as a pub PSA announcement, everybody likes challah a little bit differently, but I tend to find that if you put challah to then do a second rise and bake in one of these tins, I'm just gonna get one. I tend to find that they rise a little bit better. So that's just like me personally. Versus if you do it on a cookie sheet, I tend to find that it gets a touch flatter. But everyone has their own personal preference. I do oval, sometimes I do square, sometimes I do it a little bit bigger just to give it a little bit an extra time to rise. We've been doing some interesting toppings that we've expanded. So this is just like an interesting personal thing. I'll just share what we've found in our home. I don't use, my challah is an egg-free challah. So it's technically speaking a water challah, but it doesn't have, I don't think, that Israeli water taste to it. It actually tastes a little bit sweeter. So people are usually surprised that it tastes like it is a water challah. So I don't use an egg wash on my challah. What I actually do is I take a little bit of olive oil and I mix it with a little bit of maple syrup. I used to mix it with a little bit of honey, but I stopped doing that because different people were allergic to honey, and then I couldn't remember what challahs had honey and which challahs didn't have honey, and that was a little bit of a debacle. So I just did olive oil and maple syrup, and then I brush it on. And then I've been doing like different toppings. I've done za'atar, I've done everything.
Sprinkles.
Because we've done sprinkles.
You done cinnamon.
We do some vanilla sugar just on top. Sometimes I use, actually, because we like gingerbread in our house, or I will force them to like gingerbread because I love gingerbread. We sometimes mix a little bit of molasses in the topping, and then I actually just add the gingerbread spice that you could purchase just straight on top. The other thing that I have been doing, and everybody enjoys in this house, is to make like a little bit of a crumb topping. It's just, I guess it depends if you like a sweeter challah or a less sweet challah. But what I have been kind of mixing together is I take a half a cup of flour, a quarter of a cup of regular sugar, and a quarter of a cup of brown sugar with a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of vanilla sugar, and a lot of like gingerbready spices. And then I add a tiny bit of canola oil, so it kind of crumbles itself up. And then I put it on right before I brush it with the olive oil and maple syrup, and then let me let it
I want
rise
to put it
first.
inside.
Oh, and then should I make sure I have everything? And then and then we bake it, and everybody seems to be a fan of it, and it makes good French toast on Sunday morning or Monday morning, depending on what time you or don't have to get your kids to school. It's not for the 8 o'clock dropper office.
Great. Somebody asked if you have, oh, sorry, no. 1 second. Somebody asked if you have a good recipe for less than 5 pounds with eggs.
Oh.
That's you right here. I have, okay, for less than 5 pounds with eggs.
Eggs, right.
My recipe does not have 5 pounds with eggs, but I'm gonna look. I'll tell you something. When we really weren't leaving our homes, and I was literally home all day and I had time to mine dough, I tried tons of different recipes. There is a cookbook that I'm gonna grab it just so people can see it, that I really like.
Sarah, I've taken your recipe and added an egg.
Oh,
Just
right.
a heads up.
The recipe and added the egg.
Okay,
Committed to the egg.
Just to add 1 egg to Sarah's recipe.
okay. Thank you, Rachel.
Sure.
Yeah, this is also a really good cookbook and I love it. So I will tell you, I'm gonna look right now and see. Okay.
Here's my mini challah.
Oh, that looks excellent. I'm gonna send this around, but I did try making pretzel challahs and they are heaven. So what you would do for a pretzel challah is you do everything you've done up until now with your favorite recipe. Beth, I can send you this recipe. I thought this recipe was good, very good.
Yes.
And then before you bake it, you boil it. You dump the challah, you boil it, just quickly, flip it. It kind of sinks, like the dough like does weird stuff to it, but it's actually delicious and excellent, and all this freezes very well. So I can send the other one, but yes, it is spice and spirit one. I do mine with whole wheat. I did mine with whole wheat, but I didn't do 50-50. Andrea, what happens when you do 50-50? Is it okay? I did 25-75.
Yeah, I've been making this for 25 years and it's great. I mean, it's just really a good challah. It tastes like delicious bread.
Oh, yum.
So it's not a fluffy challah, but it's a really nice bread. It's not
you-
dense.
You use 50% whole wheat flour and 50% bread flour,
No, white flour.
just regular white flour. Okay.
Just regular white flour, not high gluten. Yeah.
Not
Not high
high
gluten?
That's Sarah.
I didn't hear what you
not
said.
high gluten?
Not high gluten. No, regular. I used to use Trader Joe's white whole wheat and regular all-purpose flour. But since COVID, they stopped having the whole wheat. So I'll either use white whole wheat from the kosher store, or if I can't find that, I'll just use regular whole wheat, but 50-50. And I use 3 eggs. I'd be happy to share my recipe.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you do 5 pounds, or how many cups of flour do you do?
It depends. I mean, if somebody needs a bracha, we've unfortunately had a lot of people needing challah to be taken. So I can do 5 pounds, but I can also I do it in grams actually, but I can also do it in cups.
Okay.
So my recipe has a total of, with 5 pounds, it's 1,920 grams. And if I'm doing my regular recipe, just three chalot, then it's 960 grams, or 8 cups.
I'd love it if you wouldn't mind sharing it.
Sure, happily.
Thanks.
I also just wanted to add, because Andrea made mention of it and it was on my mind, and then distracted. Jane and I really were speaking about the number of people really who are in need of refuah, and so for anybody who took challah, to really have people in our community who really are in desperate need of a refuah.
Right now, there's one person who is so desperate, and that's Paul Bellitz.
I don't have his Hebrew name, so I do like
his Hebrew name is Peretz Yisrael. Then let me find it.
Kayla.
That's it. Thank you.
Kayla. Sorry.
Yeah, it's he's really in very, very critical shape. And hopefully he will be able to have surgery. It's not looking great right now. But there are always people who need chalot. And I said this to Yardena before, that there's something there's a friendly fridge down by the 242nd Street subway, like just kind of between 242nd and Post Road. It's really close to the corner, and it's a very decorated fridge, and it says friendly fridge. So I've been taking my extra chalot and making rolls out of them and just putting them in the fridge there.
So smart. I'm gonna find out from, I know someone said to me when we did the food drive that people just didn't realize just the need of our current pantry. So I think that people were like, I would always so happily, give if I knew what they needed or whatever it was. So I think it's good for I'm gonna try to get more information on that.
Yeah, it's food insecurity is a huge thing right now. And just so you know, there's somebody in the community, Gail Schorsch, who started she started a not-for-profit called Bronx Eats, where they do cooking demos and they help with food insecurity.
It's a real issue. Any other thoughts, questions, hop-ons?
I'm trying your olive oil maple syrup thing.
It's good. I'm telling you, it's yum. Saves
What
me
is it again? It's olive oil and maple syrup, no egg?
no egg.
Okay, good, because I have to go downstairs to get more eggs and I'm too lazy to
No,
do that.
exactly. Don't
I'm
do
gonna try this.
No. I don't know. It's funny because typically I'm not good with allergies. Like I'm known to kind of poison people. Like if you have an allergy, I'm not your person because it's not in my framework. Like I make a lot of like peanut and like the Sparty side of me doesn't compute that. But for some reason I have adopted this egg-free challah, which sort of helps somebody.
Right, so Sarah, if we're gonna drop challahs off, they just should be wrapped well and then just drop them off
Yes,
at the house.
here's what I recommend doing personally. When I make challahs, even if truthfully, if I'm making challah now on a Wednesday night, I would bake it. I would let it rise. Personally, I'm gonna let it rise now for another hour. Then I would bake it, and then I would really let it cool. Sometimes I have been known to leave it cool on the counter overnight. I'll put like a light paper towel over it and let it cool overnight. And then I wrap it with foil first thing in the morning and I put it in the oven. If I feel like it's cool enough, I might wrap it with foil, but I'll wait for sure till tomorrow morning to put it in the freezer. And it tastes, I'll even do it on a Thursday night. I'm almost more inclined to let it cool and then freeze it instead of like trying to like hang tight with it. I always find that ironically keeping challah in the freezer is actually the best in baked goods in general, the best way to keep them fresh.
Sarah, I have a question.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, what flour do you prefer, bread flour or regular flour, and what is the difference between the two?
I don't know. I'll tell you something. I have become a convert to high gluten flour, but I'll tell you something. My mom, who is like a major baker, she didn't have high gluten flour. You couldn't even it was unheard of for sure growing up in Seattle. She always made her challah with regular like bread flour, like good bread flour, or even in a pinch, regular white flour. But I've become I was finding that it was failing on me. So now I almost always make it with, I always make it with some Haredi brand of high gluten flour. I think it also like depends. Like if you're going to do yashan, if you're not going to do yashan, then you're going to end up with the high gluten Haredi flour. I like my high gluten Haredi flour.
I always use King Arthur's.
Okay, Rachel's
gluten.
King Arthur.
It's very fancy.
I love
No,
Arthur.
you buy it at Target for like $3.79 a bag. I just ordered more.
At Key Food, it's like $7.
Yeah, no,
Right.
you can't. You have to buy grape juice at Stop and Shop and flour at Walmart or Target online.
Okay, so if you can't get to Target, the kosher store has the Glicks
You don't
one.
need to get to Target.
Very
They
good.
deliver.
I know.
Go to Target.
I do the drive up now. That's my
Me
new-
too.
It'll
Me
be
too.
delivered on Tuesday. We're all good.
I like the high gluten, but I don't bake with high gluten, just as an FYI.
So bread flour is high gluten flour.
Yeah.
You should only do like yeast doughs with high gluten flour.
But isn't the bread flour not as high gluten as the high gluten?
I think
I've
it's
heard that.
As far as I know, it's the same thing. Joy, that's what you've heard?
yeah. Also, another tip is to use Himalayan salt in your yeast doughs because the minerals help the dough rise.
I tried doing that also. I haven't done it. I know it's like Naomi TGIS's thing that she puts the Himalayan pink salt in.
I mean, it's like everyone's thing. Actually, it's from King Arthur flour. They suggested it.
Really?
The same Joy, it's the same amount?
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
whatever amount, just use the
And
Himalayan
now you
salt.
buy it at Costco. It's so easy to get, like a huge tub.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. So for any yeast dough, not just hot, like I use it in my babkas too. The minerals just help the yeast grow. King Arthur Flour sells it as forgot what it's called, like bread salt or something like that. But really it's just Himalayan salt. You don't need to spend a
Much
fortune.
lower in sodium if anyone is watching that.
What is?
Himalayan salt has a much lower sodium content than regular salt, but is just as salty.
Yeah. It's
So
pretty
if anyone's watching sodium, it's always a good thing to use.
I also use it in my sourdough.
What type of yeast are you using?
I use the
Star.
Red Star. Yeah.
Red Star, yeah.
Yep.
I get like the industrial one from Restaurant Depot because I obviously use it a ton. But the Fleischmann's if you like prefer packets, the Fleischmann's is.
I've had a lot of failures with the Fleischmann's.
Really?
Yeah.
The Red Star is definitely my favorite, and then this is a cool tool.
This is what I use.
That's what I've been using.
And then you can get this at King Arthur's Flour if you have a recipe that's for packages. So this spoonful is exactly one package.
I will say,
I like the fresh yeast. I like to make the fresh yeast.
I was just about to say that, David. When
never done
I could not get any yeast after Pesach, and it was like gold, I managed to secure from like a baking company fresh yeast. Oh, first from Shoshi, and I was like in a little bit of a panic, and I knew my grandmother had always cooked with fresh yeast, and so I called my mom and I asked her about fresh yeast, and it was delicious.
Yeah, I learned. Yeah, same. I learned how to do it during lockdown. They didn't have any regular yeast. I actually like it better.
I like it better.
I feel like I may have been the only person in the world who had yeast because I had just bought it right before our kids.
Me too. Me too. Actually, Kosher Market had yeast. They had like the 1 pound packages.
A Red Star. We had the Red Star, which is what I
Right.
bought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Red Star is actually the best though, so it's good that you got that.
That was all he had. And that was all. You couldn't get anything in any supermarket. They were sold out.
I know. My mother experimented a yeast-free challah. It tasted more like a biscuit, but it was kind of cool for people who couldn't find yeast, but they still needed challah for Shabbos. Fun. Definitely tastes better with yeast.
All right. Guys, this was very fun. So here is what we're suggesting, and I'm open to other new ideas for the pantry. But if people want to drop off, we actually did. Joy was very generous, and we were able to purchase challahs from Joy. So in addition to the one everyone's making, Joy made a lot of challahs today for us to be able to purchase so that we could drop off. And I'm hopeful to be able to maybe purchase some challahs tomorrow from some of the other local places. We're hoping to bring it all to Elisa Davis, who's really the coordinator for this part of the program. Tomorrow evening, I'm going to bring it by around 8 o'clock. And so if people, you could bring it directly to her, but you could also bring it all to me and I'll bring it over, whatever is easiest for people. I just thanks everybody for being open to this idea. Everyone, I learned a lot, so I hope it was enjoyable for everybody.